In this video, I'd like to show you how to use SDL Trados Studio to translate a single document from a source into a target language. In our example, I will translate from English to German. Before I do that though, let me briefly switch over to Windows Explorer here, just so that you can see what resources I'll be using during translation. Obviously, I will translate a document, which is this Word document here, and I will go from English to German using a translation memory that I've created before, English to German. Later then I will use a term base with matching terminology so that I will get terminology recognition results during translation. And then finally I will also use an autosuggest dictionary, which you can basically create based on translation memory contents, which then gives you predictive typing results as you type in Studio to enhance the productivity during translation. So with that, let's switch over to SDL Trados Studio to get started. So in Studio, I will use the translate single document command, which then opens this particular open document dialog box here. And as I mentioned, this is the same folder as I've shown you before, where I have the source document and then the resources that I will use during translation. So let me just first of all simply select the document name. This then gives me the following choice. So first of all, I select a source and a target language. In my case, it's already correct, English to German. But as you can see here, there's lots more choices, both on the source and target language, to use the languages that you would need. So the first question that Studio asks me here is what translation memory or automated translation I would like to use. So typically what you will do is when you have an existing translation memory, then you can simply say add, and then you've got quite a choice here with different resources that you can use during translation. I will simply now use a file-based translation memory, but as you can see, you've got lots of other choices which could be quite interesting, including SDLB Global Machine Translation, Google Translate, World Server, and so on. But in our case, I would just say file-based translation memory, which then brings me into the folder that I've shown before as well, where I've got my translation memory located. So this is English to German, which I then simply select and say open. This then gets added to my list of translation memories. I could continue doing this and add other translation memories if I wanted to. There's no limit there. But for this particular example, let's keep things simple and I will just use this TM. Quite important as well is this advanced button down here, because here you can basically go into very much detail to fine-tune the resources that you use and lots of options that you can set. For now, I just wanted to show you this briefly, that you know that you can also make lots of choices on this dialog box as you get more familiar with Studio. For the time being, let me just cancel and let's just continue step by step. So this is now my document that I've got opened and the translation memory which I've selected. And this then opens in SDL Trados Studio like this. So let's take a look at the document in SDL Trados Studio. You can see the left-hand side here. This is the source document that has been opened. Here's the right-hand side. I will translate sentence by sentence now. Also some other areas of this window. Up here you can see the translation memory window. This will always show results being found from your translation memories or automated translation if you use that. So this is an area where this gets displayed. Then you have here on the right hand side the terminology, which I'm not yet using but will do so later. And then on the left hand side here you've got the document tree, where you can basically navigate the document by using this tree if you want to jump to a particular location. You can also minimize this part so that you have a bit more space for editing, which can be useful. So let me do that and just work or continue the work like this. And if you are happy with the translation, in my case what has happened is basically that context match has been found in the translation memory. This is indicated with the context match icon here in the status column. Context match means it's a 100% match, so exactly the same sentence has been translated before at the same location in the document. So in my case, it's the beginning of the document, and so the same sentence has once before been translated in exactly the same location. So once you're ready with the translation, which you might in this case review, and obviously since it's a 100% or context match, I can just confirm it as is, and that's exactly what it is called, confirming a translation. So in my case, I would like to confirm this and just go to the next segment, and to do that you have the confirm command up here, which also has obviously a keyboard shortcut attached to it so that you can also use the keyboard. In my case, I will just click the button and it will go to the next segment, which then offers me a fuzzy match, which I will now explain. So a fuzzy match always means a similar sentence has been translated before, but not exactly the same one. And in this case, then you get a so-called fuzzy match, which means there is a certain similarity between the new sentence I'm translating and what has been translated before in translation memory. It's quite easy to see. So I have here finding a location for your photo printer, and up here I've got similar sentences, but you can see with this kind of markup that there are some differences between what I'm translating and what has been translated before. So in my case, I've got two fuzzy matches which have been found, 91% match and 86% match, and I can basically now select the one that seems more appropriate for me, which is also quite nicely doable. So I can say select next match, select previous match, and then basically decide which one I would like to apply in my translation. So I could say select next match, select previous match, and then you can see how it gets replaced. In this case, let's just assume the 91% match is a little bit more appropriate. So then what I do next is I basically start editing this fuzzy match so that it becomes a full translation for this particular sentence. So in my case, obviously what I do is I remove the translation for suitable or appropriate, which basically means I delete the first sentence or the first word in my translation, and then my translation is done. Maybe in passing as well, what is interesting is that you still see the original fuzzy match value here, meaning that later when you review your translation, you can very easily see what has come from the translation memory and where you made some changes to reflect the new translation that you need to do. So in my case, I later will see, okay, the 91% fuzzy match originally has been put in by the translation memory, but I've edited it to become a full match. So again, I will now confirm the segment and go to the next one. So in this third segment now, what's quite interesting is that again, match has been found in the translation memory, and it is actually a 100% match for the source segment, but you can see that there's no formatting in the target. So it means that the translation memory has found an exact match, but since the formatting is not the same, it basically says, well, there are two formatting changes, so I reduce the fuzzy match value from 100% to 98. You can also see this up here, that there is a formatting difference that has been applied. And obviously now this will mean for me, I will now basically need to apply the same formatting that I see in the source to the target segment. So in this particular point in time, we learn how to transfer formatting. So what you will normally do is you will select the corresponding piece in the target segment, and then basically what you can, for example, do is press the keyboard shortcut Control comma, which then allows you to see the formatting ranges from the source segment, which you can now apply to the same selection in the target. So here you can see that I can switch between these two formatting ranges, and now what I want to do is obviously take the first one, which then applies the same formatting, which could be any formatting. This is just simple because it's bold, but it could be Tahoma Red 17 point or something. The same principle would apply. Press Control comma and then select the formatting that you would like to use. In the same way, when I go to the next formatting range that I would like to apply, again press Control comma, and what's quite nice is that now the second formatting has moved to the first location here in the list because I already took the first one. So I can press Enter to apply the same formatting. If for some reason you have made a mistake with the formatting, what you can do at any point in time is select the corresponding formatting again and then click the Clear Formatting button up here, which then removes the formatting again. So I remove it, and then I could reapply the formatting as needed. Or what I can also do is do undo up here, and then the formatting comes back, because in this case I obviously need it. So that's in a nutshell how you can transfer formatting from source to target. There are more commands up here in the formatting area with the most frequent formatting that you can also select, obviously by just clicking a button after selecting text. And you also have quick insert items, which can also be helpful to insert frequent characters, and sometimes also just apply some other formatting as well, which might be custom to the file type that you're translating. So now that this translation is done, let me confirm again and move to the next segment. In this next segment, actually no fuzzy match or otherwise match has been found in the translation memory. So this is the situation that you can see now. It says no matches found here, so the translation memory didn't produce any results, which means I would now need to start from scratch. However, what can always be useful is obviously if you have a terminology database or a term base, then you could use this to at least get the terms recognized that are maybe known in the source sentence here. In order to add a term base to your project, you can click this button here, Project Term Base Settings, which then always brings you exactly to the right location where you need to be in your project settings in order to add a term base. So in my case, I click Add and then Browse for a file. And then I go into the same folder location that I've shown at the beginning. So in this case, term bases here, which then allows me to add this particular sample term base that is shipped with Studio as well. So I'm clicking OK. And then you can see that the printer term base has now been added to the project. And once I confirm this with OK, you can see that now the known terms from the source segment get a red highlight here, and they also it also shows up here in this particular term recognition window, which means now that I can translate this segment with the help of terminology. So let's get started with this particular segment here. So what I could, for example, say is auf der Rückseite des. And now I'm ready to insert the translation of the known term photo printer, Photodrucker. And what I can do, for example, is just press the letter F, and then this gets actively suggested to me as part of the terminology functionality in Studio. So every known term that you have in your term base that has been recognized can be inserted in this way by just pressing the first character of the word. I can then press Enter, and then this gets put into the segment like this. Another possibility is to use the Show Translations command up here, which also always shows me the source and target terms that have been found. And then I can again navigate through this list. In this case, it's just one item, so I can again put it in like this. You can also see that the word is featuring red squiggly underlining here, which means that the spell checking has found a potential issue here. Obviously, Photodrucker is spelled correctly, so if I would like to quickly add it to the dictionary, then I can just right-click and basically say Add to Dictionary. And then this gets added, and also the red squiggly line gets cleared. So let's finish this translation quickly. So this could be a good translation for this, but let's assume I'm making a mistake because I didn't really look properly at the source where it says clearly 12 centimeters. Also, it has a blue underlining, which actually means that I can also put it in like this. I can press Control, comma, and then basically get the same number into the target segment, also modified according to the requirements of the target language. But let's assume I don't know this and I just press F centimeter like this. When I now then confirm the segment again, see what happens. There's a red cross or red icon here that shows me that something has gone wrong. And when I hover with my mouse over this, it tells me that a measurement is missing in the target segment or has not been properly localized, meaning that Studio has recognized in real time basically that the measurement is wrong. And what I can now obviously do is correct this. But before I do so, I wanted to show you where to find the options for such real-time quality assurance checks. You can click on Project Settings here or here, and then you can go to verification QA checker, and this then gives you a very rich choice of different checks that can be carried out for each translation that you're doing. In this case it's the numbers or measurements check, which in both cases has been selected here to signal an error, but you have lots and lots of other options here which you can check for inconsistencies, punctuation, numbers, regular expressions, even length verification, and so on. So lots of checks that are available. In my case, the number check has basically fired and has shown me that I made a mistake. So when I correct it now, then I can again confirm, and then the error has been corrected. So for the next segment, let's assume I have the translation already available. So this could be the translation, and I just confirm, go to the next. And in this segment now, let's take a look at how to transfer tags from source to target. Alright, let's get started. So let's assume this is my first part here. Sorgen Sie für problemlose Belüftung. Now I'm ready to insert the footnote. And again, as I mentioned before, it's always control comma, also in this case, where then you can see the tags from the source. And again, if there's more than one, you can see more than one on the list, and you can then select the one that you want. In this case, I again can just press enter, and then the tag is transferred to my target segment. I'm now ready to continue the translation of this particular segment, and this is the translation that I should use. And now let's assume that I would like to check whether the layout of my translation is still correct. By now I've inserted quite a bit of formatting and also this footnote reference. So let's see what the options are to take a look at the translated document as far as I've got so far. So again, I confirm the segment using Control Enter. And then let's take a look here on the right hand side on the preview tab. So Studio is quite nice insofar as you can really choose how different bits and pieces of your work show up in your environment. And in this case, the preview tab can slide in like this, and it can slide out like this. But what you can also do is have it slide in and then basically say you don't want to auto hide. Then you can basically click on it like this. And then what you can do is, for example, move it to the right hand side like this, which then basically shows you constantly a preview window in your screen. Obviously, when you have two screens that you work with, for example, then you can also move this window completely outside to the second window, which I can obviously not show here. But in this case, let's just assume I would like to take a look at the document in here. And I can at any point in time click this button to generate the real-time preview. And this then basically shows me, in this case, for example, the footnote in the footnote area of Word. And up here also I can see that the footnote has been correctly translated. And it also actually shows me where I am currently, which is exactly the footnote text here. You can also see it here in Studio that this is a footnote. So that's why also this is highlighted in this particular case as part of my translation. Again, I can resize a bit more to show a bit more of this preview document if I wanted to. In my case, it's fine now. I can have checked it, and so I can auto hide the window again, which then means whenever I want to go back and see the latest, then I could always slide it in and have a look at my preview document like this. Another option actually, which is quite nice, is to open the document in Word proper. If Microsoft Word is installed on your machine, and that's this button here. View the target document using the selected application. This starts Word, and then you can actually see how far we've got so far. So again, up to this particular point, the translation is complete, and I'm now translating the actual footnote, which in this case is still in English. Let's quickly translate the next two segments, like this, and like this. And then let's take a look at the next segment, but before doing so, let me first of all add an autosuggest dictionary. An autosuggest dictionary is basically a third database that you use during translation. One is the translation memory, which we've seen. The second one is the term base, which we've seen. And autosuggest is basically a third resource that you use. An autosuggest dictionary is always based on a translation memory of a certain size of 10,000 translation units or more. And typically an autosuggest dictionary then contains lots of phrases and sentence fragments from the translation memory that are useful during translation based on what's in the source segment. So in my case, if I wanted to add an autosuggest dictionary, I can simply click the project settings button, and then I need to go to the source and target language tree here, because an autosuggest dictionary is always language pair driven. And so that's why you can find the autosuggest dictionary settings always under the particular language pair that you're currently using. So it's very easy. I basically go here and add an autosuggest dictionary. One is actually shipped with Studio, and this is basically also now what I will be using. So I go again to my folder structure, and this is the one that is shipped with Studio. You will find it in the sample project, but I'm using the same now here. I say open, say OK, and now I'm ready to use this autosuggest dictionary in my translation. Let's see how that works. So I'm ready to start typing and see what happens when I type Hinweis. Basically I type the H, and then what happens is that a list opens up, and Studio suggests to me that I might want to type Hinweis. And this particular word now has been taken from the autosuggest dictionary that I've just added. So in the translation memory there's lots and lots of sentences where note has been translated with Hinweis, and so this is against that background that the autosuggest dictionary can suggest such words to me now in my translation. You can see that obviously this can save a lot of typing, which becomes even more obvious in the next segment, where I now can use the feature heavily. So I start with V, and you can see it suggests to me Verwendung or verwenden. In this case it's the verb, so I use verwenden. Sie, which in this case also suggests Stromversorgung, because that also starts with an S and matches what is in the source segment. But I can just in this case continue typing and ignore the suggestion. So I would say something like verwenden Sie ausschließlich das Netzteil, and then you can see some suggestions, again always based on what's in the source, now suggested to me on the target side. So the autosuggest dictionary doesn't take any random sentence fragment or word, but just gives me what always matches the source segment. So in this case I can say Netzteil, das im Lieferumfang des Druckers. That's very nice. Now I have got a longer fragment that is offered to me, which I can just take like this. Enthalten, included with, yeah, ist. And so you have seen that instead of typing lots and lots of characters myself, I could take quite a few suggestions from the autosuggest dictionary that I've just added to my project. So you can see that this is very useful on top of translation memory and on top of terminology, that you add an autosuggest dictionary that will then give you sentence fragments and words all the time. Right, now that I've translated quite a bit in this document, let's save the document so that I can come back to it later. This allows me then also to explain to you how this works. So I've just confirmed this final segment here, and let's assume I just want to save now. You can then go to the File menu and say Save. Since I've never saved this document before, Studio prompts me with a name, so I say Save. And then basically what I have now is actually a saved document which is also available in my project list. So let me close the document here, which then returns me to the Files view. Let me also open up this tree again. And now when I go to Projects, what you can see is that a new project has been added to your list, which basically is this single file project that I've just created. That's very important information, because if you want to come back to a translation that you've previously started, then simply reopen Studio and go back to this previous single file project to continue. So if I now would like to continue, that's exactly what I can do. I can go back to, I can double click on the project name and can go back to the file, and I can see my translation where I left it off last time. Right, let's now finish the translation completely, and then I will show you how to save your final target document. So to finish off, let's assume that the next segments are all in my translation memory, and how this actually works is you simply need to confirm the current segment, and then Studio will basically go through and retrieve any 100 or context matches from your translation memory like is shown here. And then let's assume I have got my final target segment in here like this, and basically am now done. So the translation has been fully done. I can save it again just to make sure that I update also the document in Studio. So again, in my projects list I still have this translation also being tracked, and you can see that the progress is now at 100%. And then the final action now is to basically get my target document out of Studio, and that is very simple indeed. I simply say File, Save Target As, and I'm in the same folder that I started off with, and here I can, for example, now say sample photo printer German and save, and that's me done. So now the translation is complete and I can deliver back the translated document to my customer. Thank you very much.